There's an election campaign going on in British Columbia, and like the federal one before it and the Alberta election before that, I am blown away by how few people care about the economy. I'm hearing some absolutely harebrained ideas that will really hurt economic growth and employment, but not many seem to care. See, I don't think we care about the economy until it hits us personally. It's someone else's problem until you or a family member loses their job, but then it's too late. I've been saying for years that the biggest threat to our standard of living is complacency. We seem to take it for granted. Most of us simply don't seem to connect the dots that jobs, government programs, our standard of living, and our children's future depend on a strong economy. Now, I could talk about this every week, but this week is different. This week, the game changed. Well, actually, maybe it changed on November 9th when the U.S. elected its first truly pro-business, pro-jobs president since Ronald Reagan. That's in sharp contrast to Canada, where economic growth is not even close to the main priority at the federal level in most provinces, and it certainly isn't in our urban centers. In other words, Mr. Trump's all in playing a game where we're only in it half-heartedly. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Donald Trump is off the wall when it comes to issues like trade. The jury's still out as how much damage his protectionist tendencies will do to American workers. But this week, he made a big move by announcing his plan for major tax cuts for both business and individuals. And if they go through, combined with his push to reduce costly regulation, it's a game changer when it comes to attracting business investment. And that's where it could have a big impact on the Canadian economy. See, up to this point, our corporate taxes have been far more attractive. That's why Burger King moved its head office to Canada when it bought Tim Hortons. But if Trump's plan passes, that's going to change. Anti-business types seem to refuse to understand that capital investment is the foundation of economic growth and job creation. You don't get to say I care about jobs without understanding that that means you've got to attract some capital. And how decisions about where to invest that capital are made are not much different than how you shop personally. I mean, you weigh a lot of variables, usually starting with costs, and then you make a purchase. Well, President Trump's plan reduces the cost of investing in the U.S. by reducing tax and regulation. And by the way, before anyone drops into their ideological black hole, you got to understand that despite the anti-business rhetoric from some circles, every political party in Canada has acknowledged the role that taxes play in attracting business investment. The NDP, the Liberals, Conservatives have all introduced special tax breaks, maybe for film or auto, resource development, with the express goal of attracting capital and the jobs that come with it. Now, Mr. Trump understands that relationship between the cost of taxation, the cost of regulation, and capital investment. But judging from the media coverage, I don't get the impression that people get the importance of his proposals to lower corporate taxes from 35 to 15%. In addition, in allowing companies to bring back $2.6 trillion in cash they hold outside of the U.S., it's going to be a 10% tax rate. You bring it back, and then you pay little or no tax going forward on your foreign operations. He's also proposing to lower individual taxes. He wants to reduce the number of income tax brackets from 7 to 3. But here's the key, with the top rate falling from 39.6% to 35%. Now, come on, the plan's going to be controversial. You're going to have on the one side people saying it's going to increase the deficit. On the other side, you're going to say it helps the rich, whatever. But you know what? The bottom line is that President Trump has made it very clear that the goal is to create jobs, grow the economy through a simplified and less onerous tax system. And if he passes it, he'll be right. But what about Canada here? Well, lower U.S. corporate rates, along with dropping the rate for high-income earners, could be a game changer, especially for knowledge-based industries because they're so portable. Now, obviously, if you have a mining operation or an oil field or, to a lesser degree, manufacturing plants, it's difficult to move. But come on, in knowledge-based industries like high-tech, hey, you just unplug the computer, bring the brains, and you're in business. It's easy. You're not going to see any more Burger Kings bringing their head office to Canada if these changes go through. Now, Finance Minister Morneau waited to see what the U.S. is going to do in his federal budget. He understands that our competitive advantage stands in the balance. But you know what? I wonder how many other politicians have a clue about this, that they've actually looked at the importance of Mr. Trump's proposals and impact they could have on whether it's your province or the country as a whole. Well, I can tell you, certainly no one in the LEAP manifesto crowd cares. And what about the public sector? I doubt it. Big government advocates? I doubt it. This is scary. I mean, we still have politicians and parties at all three levels of government talking about raising taxes on business and increasing the regulatory burden. That's the same thing as saying we don't want capital investment. We don't want it. We don't want to grow the economy, create jobs, enhance government revenue. We've already had 4 years of decline in capital investment. That's one of the big reasons the economy is having trouble recovering. We also have a regulatory burden that's choking activity. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples before I stop here. University of Calgary Jack Mintz has pointed out that the World Bank's 2016 report ranks Canada 53rd when it comes to construction permits. They take an average of 249 days to be approved. How about this? Something as straightforward as connecting to electricity. Canada ranks 105th with 130 days delay. As I said up front, economic growth and jobs are not a priority federally, in most provinces, and at the urban level. Now, I appreciate that most people won't give a hoot about this. I just thought I'd give you a heads up. The consequences of anti-business policies are going to be more severe than ever. And then, who knows? Maybe we'll have a pay cut. Maybe you'll know someone who loses their job, or worse. Or maybe you know a young person who won't be able to get one. But there will be consequences. Money Talks is brought to you by Solera Club. For more information, go to soleraclub.com. I'm going to take a break. I've got a couple of big stories I'm going to go over with Michael Levy coming up. Got a big fat idea. And look, I'm sorry to bring this up, but this is the last weekend before the tax deadline for most of us on the personal income tax front. It's got to be in Monday. Tim Sesnick's coming by, one of our favorites, and he's just going to give you a quick checklist. I'm going to try and save you some money. Just make sure, oh, I forgot to do that. I remember to do that. That's good. That's bad. Hey, we'll give you a checklist for that coming up. All of that coming your way on Money Talks.
News Talk 980 CKNW is your home for Decision BC.
We need to make sure that we are supporting people in finding their way into work.
Your negligence over the past 2 years has led to a market that is unattainable for the families you profess to represent.
You basically are saying then that you have a plan, to develop a plan, to come up with a plan.
Correct.
Leading up to the May 9th election, meet the candidates, understand the issues, and get ready to vote with Global News and News Talk 980 CKNW.
William Shakespeare in Romeo and Juliet penned, "That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." Solera believes that a royalty by any other name would also smell as sweet. We have renamed our royalty Fractal Income, and it does smell just as sweet. Fractal Income is a quarterly, tax-free, no-fee income paid from the gross revenue of the company invested in. If you want your investments to smell like roses, join soleraclub.com today. That's soleraclub.com.
John Shorthouse here with Blair Manson from Sands & Associates Licensed Insolvency Trustees. Blair, it's tax time. That can mean some anxiety for people.
That's right, Shorty. So many people are going through tough times financially, and if you have tax debt, we can help.
How so?
If you need to make a deal with the CRA, filing a consumer proposal is the only way to go. Tax debt? Together we can work it out. Let's talk.
For a free consultation, click sands-trustee.com or call 310-0911.
Thousands of British Columbians are living with dementia. Support them by participating in fundraising in the Investors Group Walk for Alzheimer's on the first Sunday in May. Visit walkforalzheimers.ca to find a walk near you. Together, we make memories matter.
Live in style. Summit sets the new standard for large townhome living. Who needs a single-family home? Situated in Panorama Heights and brought to you by Hayer Builders Group, these new homes offer panoramic views from exclusive rooftop patios, modern interiors, and spacious award-winning kitchens. For a limited time, a hot tub for your rooftop patio is included. Check it out at rooftopsatsummit.com and see for yourself at the barbecue celebration of the Peak Collection, the best view homes offered at Summit, today at 140th Street and 61st Avenue.
Oh, hi. Benji the Shaw Fairy here. With the Blue Sky TV voice remote, you can make wishes like...
Watch Cake Boss.
Which can lead to...
Record every episode of Cake Boss.
And then...
More shows like Cake Boss.
Until...
Buy me a one-way ticket to culinary school so I can quit my job and be my own cake warrior.
It's a delicious slippery slope. Blue Sky TV. TV you can talk to. Switch today. Call 310-SHAW.
At Capilano Audi, the difference is the people. The new 2018 Audi Q5s are in. Drop by Capilano Audi today. Their experienced staff will help you expertly select your Audi for a scenic North Vancouver test drive. Capilano Audi, 813 Auto Mall Drive.
But idea this week is taking a look at someone who might have maybe $30,000 or $40,000 to invest. Maybe you've got an RSP that's a little bigger than that. Well, Patrick Cerizan, the Chief Derivative Market Strategist, Learn to Trade Global, is going to be chatting with us about that. But right now, very pleased to get back on with me. I've got Michael Levy. Mike, I wanted to start with something because it came right on the light, and I know you follow this on probably an hourly basis. But looking at the Canadian dollar here, what was it, a 14-month low on Friday?
Was a 14-month low, hit 73.01 cents on Friday before bouncing a little bit, Mike. And there's a magnitude of reasons why the dollar's on the defensive, but I think one of the main ones is trade, and it's two-pronged. Number one, our trade. Normally, our trade is our biggest economic driver, and in fact, it's not. And second, the trade deal or lack of it with the United States, both weighing very heavily on the dollar, Mike.
What do you think about oil? I mean, I saw that dip also below 50.
Well, Mike, if you took the chart of oil and a chart of the Canadian dollar, I don't care how good the economy is in Canada, I don't care what else is going on, if you lay a chart of oil over a chart of the Canadian dollar, basically they're in lockstep. They have been for years, and that was one of the big weights on the Canadian dollar this past week because oil fell back through $50 a barrel and got down to actually under 48 before it bounced back a little bit. So I think oil is one of the real things that's weighing. And the other thing, Mike, is this Home Capital, Canada's largest alternative mortgage lender. We take a look at it internally, and it is a little frightening to see them in that kind of trouble. But people who look internationally, they look at that and they say, wait a minute, is there something going on in Canada with a major financial institution? And maybe we should be a little leery too.
Yeah, as you say, it just seems like a lot of stuff starts interacting on what's going on with the dollar. I mean, the other big one still, though, is strength in the U.S. dollar. I mean, that's still the favored place for money to park, you know, when uncertainty grips Europe, for example, or Asia. So, man, there's a lot of factors coming to play here. Where are you seeing it going?
Well, Mike, just before you go there, there's another factor weighing on it, which I didn't even take into consideration, and that's the subject of your editorial. If you see the U.S. drop taxes and you see head offices heading out of Canada and looking at a different venue like the United States, by the way, they're going to be selling Canadian dollar assets. Canada is not going to be a haven for investment with our high tax regimen compared to the U.S., so that's, as I say, another weight against the Canadian dollar that I didn't even consider.
Okay, let me come back to something you mentioned there, and I'll just be brief with this, but that Home Capital Group, you know, is you know, that's an alternative lender to the banks. You know, it lends to a lot of people who are self-employed, for example, or maybe they've got some credit problems, and, you know, they got a pretty, you know, it's a sizable portfolio when you look at $16 billion, but it's a very small percentage of the overall mortgage market, but that seems to have scared the market a bit.
Well, it has, and Mike, the investors are leaving Home Capital in droves. Look, this goes back to 2015, and I say shame on the regulators. In 2015, 45 of their mortgage brokers were suspended for fake or altered verification documents. In other words, they're going out, and the brokers are selling the mortgages, and when it comes to filling out the forms, they're fudging the answers so that the lenders can be qualified under the rules, but in fact, it puts those loans at risk. And now for the last 2 years, they've been under investigation for this, and now that it's come to a head, there's basically been a run on the bank, and I'm using that as an expression. The depositors of GICs or into their high-interest savings accounts are leaving, and that's how they fund their mortgages. So it's put home capital right up against the wall.
Yeah, a couple of quick things, though. It just shows you once confidence starts to leave, that's where the real problems start. And the confidence is maybe those GICs won't be honored. So money, as you say, money just gets, emptying out. They got a big chunk of money for those term sort of deposit style GICs coming up. And I guess they're just worried about solvency. But I think the market's wrong, by the way, Mike, in suggesting this may have a spillover effect on the overall housing market. I don't see this. I see this as a unique set of circumstances at this point.
I do too, Mike, and, you've got to keep making the point. This is not a banking problem in Canada. This is a problem with Home Capital Group. I see two outcomes here. Number one, Home Capital has a lot of assets on the books. Those are good mortgages. Those are saleable. But the other thing, it puts Home Capital up against the wall, really up against the wall. And I just want to go over this briefly. In order to stay and I'm going to use the word solvent, with their head above water, they've had to go out and borrow a $2 billion line of credit. And they did that with the Ontario Pension Plan, healthcare pension plan, Mike. And just briefly, by the time they get through paying fees and the interest rate that they have to pay in order to secure those funds to keep solvent and to keep going, it gives them an effective rate of 22.5% on the first $1 billion that they're borrowing. Ergo, how do you lend money out at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% on mortgages if you're paying 22.5%? This is not going to be pretty for Home Capital when it ends.
Yeah, I'm not worried about money. They're not having a mortgage default problem at this point at all, not even close, But, yeah, for the company itself, I think you're right. I don't think its implications for the broader market. Hell of a deal, 22.5%, by the way. Mike, we'll be following it closely. I know you'll be right there Monday morning first thing looking at that Canadian dollar. We'll talk to you then.
Okay, Mike. Have a good weekend.
I'll take a break. I'll come back. I got a big fat idea. Patrick Sarizna is talking about, hey, if you got $30,000, $40,000 to invest, maybe